First of all, congratulations. You did a lot of really, really wonderful things. And I know you have a concert or recital coming up in 3 days, 4 days. So I definitely don't want to rock the boat too much. So feel free to completely forget whatever I say right after you leave the stage. But I want to start out by talking a little bit about some general things I hear that you don't necessarily have to change right now, but just that might open your perspective a little bit when you are playing Bach. But before we do that, so you had a little memory doubt, right? It wasn't really a slip, but you had a doubt that happened there. How do you practice for that? How can you can never fully omit the risk of memory slip, because you could have something can happen. And do you practice any specific way to try and guard yourself against this?
I do slow practice.
Yeah.
And then I also have my friends just interrupt me when I practice. So I get used to that.
That's a new one. Okay, that can work. When you say slow practice, you mean by heart?
I try that. Sometimes I practice on the toilet. I think about the music. What should I anticipate in the left hand? I've done that. That doesn't really work.
Yeah, well, toilet is one option. The kitchen table is another one. So yeah, sitting away from the piano and being able to visualize exactly what's going on. Where are your hands, which finger, which note, black or white key, how is your arm? The more you can visualize this, the better. It's difficult to do if you don't have the habit for it. So it might be good, first of all, to start at a spot that you know is tricky, or a movement that's tricky, or a page. Sit on the kitchen table, try to just visualize it. The hard thing about when you play piano, it's very easy to get distracted by how beautiful you sound. And then before you know it, you're dreaming away, and suddenly you're 4 pages later, you have no idea what happened in the meantime. When you're visualizing, it's impossible, because you're either visualizing or you're not doing anything at all, right? So that it makes it harder. I find that very useful to fix certain passages. If you do it a lot, you can get confident into being able to do this from the beginning to the end. And then you start to realize how difficult it is to focus even 30 seconds without stopping the focus. So these exercises are very good to remain focused. That's one thing. Off the piano, you mentioned slow practice. I would, when you're on the piano, I would encourage slow practice, but by heart, which actually makes it harder, because you have more time to question yourself. Do I know this? What's the next note? Which hand's going to play it? So the good thing about that is it introduces obstacles, or it introduces opportunities for you to doubt yourself. And then you have to think about it, and then every time in concert, when you're encountering a sudden doubt, it's nice if you've already been there, if you've been somewhere where you've had the same doubt. Those are things that I think can help. Another one is what I call ghost practice, which is you play the whole piece or a movement where one hand is pretending to play and the other one's actually playing. And the key is to always pay attention to the silent one, the one that's not making noise. In the beginning it's tricky, but you get used to it, and then you the opposite way. Try to switch back and forth. These are all little tricks you can do to gain clarity. Another one that's really good is to play at flexible tempo. So as you go, speed up a little bit and slow down a little bit, so that you're throwing yourself off balance. Nothing too crazy, but start at 70%, and by the half of the first page or something, you go to 100% and you go back to 60%. Just flexible tempos also, again, make it a little bit more challenging to verify that everything is there. And then the most important thing is when you're sitting on stage, you should expect it. This is going to happen. At some point, your mind is going to not know what note is next. What I like very much when it happens is that you, right afterwards, you slightly slow down, which is a very good impulse, as opposed to speeding up. Good, but I thought you handled that very well. Also, recording yourself on an iPhone or something, just, it sounds idiotic, but the fact that you pressed record on anything and you're going to play through it, that, it creates sort of a mental pressure. And it's good to do that like 10 times before you go to a recording, concert, and then listen back and see if you can identify where you doubted. Usually, I strongly doubt this the first time that you have a slight memory doubt on exactly I indicated in your score. But usually there's a few places and they always come back. So if you can identify them, you're even more guarded. All right, that on memory. Now, what instrument was this written for? Harpsichord, yeah. And so I think I'm not a purist in the sense that I don't think you should only play it on a harpsichord. We didn't come here in a chariot. We have lights, we have electricity, you have cell phones. You can play this on a modern piano, no problem. But it's important to have an idea of how the piece was conceived and what did Bach have in his mind in terms of tools that you have at your disposal to make music. Because it sort of makes up how he writes the piece, right? And so having that knowledge can inform a little bit what decisions you make with the piece. So could you, if you haven't done it, maybe it's hard, but could you explain a little bit what is different with harpsichord playing?
It doesn't sustain.
Yeah, sustain is less than the piano. Yeah, they both don't sustain actually. I mean, if you play a note, in the end, everything will. But you're right, it sustains less, which is why a lot of people on the repeats will ornament and do different things. It's for fantasy and for sustain. Good, and what else?
Dynamics. The keys are lighter, smaller.
Did you say zero dynamics?
There is a little bit.
Yeah, so it's true. So you can't play the note louder and get more sound in a harpsichord, but you can play a 6-note chord versus a 2-note chord, or 1 note, and that'll sound louder by itself. Also, the action of a piano is pretty silent, you can't hear it. A harpsichord makes almost as much noise as it makes pitch. So you go, and then there's a note coming out. And there's something satisfying about that whole rackety-rickety sound of the instrument. That's part of the rhythmic impulse of the whole thing. Okay, what else? Oh, you mentioned dynamics. So you said other than dynamics, some of them have registers, right? So there are those that you have stepped dynamics, even for one single note. Good. So what do people then use when they play harpsichord to make music, to phrase? What do they have at their disposal? So how does a harpsichordist phrase, for example?
Ornamentation.
Ornamentation?
They do gaps, right?
Yes, timing, exactly. Timing is the number one thing. So no good harpsichord player will play this piece metronomically, per 32nd note completely exact, because it'll sound extremely stale. So they take a lot more liberty with timing so that you can have a phrase. And they can sound dance-like. Even with timing, you can infer dynamics, you can infer something that's growing, something that's coming back, just by when you play the note, how long it lasts. Those are basically the only controls you have. When does the key go up, and when does it go down, and when does it come back up? So why do I bring this up? Because on a harpsichord player, when you look at a piece like this, they will think a lot more of the big pulse, like the framework that you hang every important event on. And so you could look at the time signature, which is C, 4/4, 4 beats in a bar. It's also important to look at the harmonic pulse that a piece has. So if the harmony changes every bar, that's a very slow change. And then sometimes in the piece, you could have harmony for 1 bar, harmony for another bar, and then suddenly you have 8 harmonies in 1 bar because a lot more is happening. And with harpsichord players, you'll see that they then take more time as if there's more effort. That you create this sort of inertia of going through the harmonic progressions. And because there's nothing else going on a harpsichord, you're more forced to focus on that like that. So I want to try to see if we can get a little bit more of a sense of a bigger pulse, that you go from one important point to the next. Tied to that is also when you mentioned sustain. So with a piano and with pedal, you can sort of create this belly phrases, where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, which is a very romantic idea, something that swells in the middle of the bar. That basically doesn't exist in Baroque music, right? It's usually you hang something on the beat, and then what's a good way of putting it? It's like you push a swing. You push the swing on the beat, and it just automatically continues, comes back, and on the next pulse, you give it another swing, and it comes back. Ideally, you have that feeling, rather than pushing the swing halfway through, much more forcefully. So, what I heard a little bit in your, in general, is a desire to be very melodic with the right hand, which is good, but perhaps too much at the detriment of the big pulse and of the harmonic structure. So, in plain words, too much right hand and not enough awareness of what's happening in the left hand underneath. And on a piano in general, but even for most audiences, if you play everything equal, already they will listen to the highest note, because the ear sort of wants to listen to that. So if you want to present something equal, you may have to slightly favor the left to bring out, look what's here, look what's happening here. Can we try the very open one? Excellent, good, excellent, very nice. I like how you're very much aware that the melody goes up to there, and you clearly emphasize that. That's good. But what's happening underneath? You have these long sustained notes. Your left hand, when you begin, doesn't really start the piece, and it's actually the downbeat, right? You almost started. I'm exaggerating, right? But you could sound like like Tchaikovsky piano concerto on top there if you want, without any floor underneath. Can we try it one more time? Try to be a little bit more aware of the choir that's singing, those two voices that are singing underneath. Excellent, good. Very nice. I like your left hand. I want to have you try play the right hand an octave up here, yeah, and maybe the left hand an octave down. So just spread more. Yeah, just play it like that. Yeah, more begin. Yeah, good. When you're, I'm throwing you off. I know. I'm putting you on the spot. It's totally okay. So when you start this piece, you are cueing yourself, which is good. You take a breath. You start the piece. Ideally, your breath indicates your pulse already. So I like the breath, but perhaps it's short. It sounds a little bit like you're starting like this. Ideally, you have maybe a full beat or even a half bar. So you feel 1, 2, if you can feel that before you go, it'll sound a lot more, what's the good word? Like you have a better flow, and the bigger pulse will be evident from before you start. Can we try that with your hands spread apart? Yeah, make sure this hand is the downbeat. That's where the piece starts. Excellent, good. I'm going to ask you something that's probably might be too hard to do on the spot, but could we try this?
No.
Yeah, so this is the right hand, this is going to be the left. You might have to start here. Yeah. That's right. No, you play these notes, but here. So you're going to play here. Yeah, good. So when you do it like that, you hear this more? Yeah, but not enough yet, right? It's this one. This hand is so used to being in charge, it's still a little bit loud. Can you try it again and feed me a little bit more of that? Good. So you obviously don't have to do the whole piece like that, but sometimes it can, and then don't, when you practice this, also practice the other crossing. Just to get your ears away from thinking too much of the great soprano singing and a background orchestra, behind the stage somewhere. Good. Now, another thing that harpsichords can do, and they use it because they don't have that much they can do, which is articulation, right? So the idea of sort of an endless sausage of a phrase, right, which is never cut in pieces, just like one long stream, is impossible in Baroque music, because it imitates string players and vocal players, and if you don't let singers breathe, they tend to die. So to avoid singers' death, they really have places where they breathe, and as a keyboard player, you could do this eternally, but you shouldn't. You should try to imitate that affect. Same thing with string players, right? So there's something to be said for when there's diatonic or chromatic steps that you're playing. String players usually on the same string, they can connect it. If there's a jump, they cannot connect it. So if a string quartet's playing this, this wouldn't all be connected. Probably you would hear, for example, right? Maybe this cello is a, maybe they have a little break there to go back up. So the more details you can bring into that in terms of lifting up and not lifting up, and even if the voices do different articulations, it's really going to create the impression that three musicians are actually doing this, rather than a background band with a big right hand on top. Can we try that one more time? I'm asking a lot, I know, but let's see what we come up. Yeah, okay. Good, excellent, that's better, yeah. you have these kinds of things on harpsichord. It would be, that stuff is easier, right? Because there's less depth and there's less weight, so the articulation of those things is a little bit easier. But even then, on a harpsichord, they would take a tiny bit more time, if needed, to enunciate. So ideally, it's hard to do, especially because when you play a concert, you don't know whether what the piano's like, what's the hall like, is it well regulated, you know, is it too humid and maybe the action sticks, maybe you had the wrong cereal for breakfast and your fingers don't work as well. You should always keep in mind, give yourself enough time to articulate everything. So nothing sounds like you're fumbling through, like you're upset that your fingers can't do it fast enough. If needed, just take a hair more, rather than right? Because you'll only get lucky so many times with articulation, and it creates sort of a relentless forward feeling. And ideally with this, we just feel like we're relaxing backwards. Good. Let's try that one more time. Good. That's already better with the gaps here. All right. Yeah. I'm stepping on the first phrase, but the same principle goes for the whole piece. Let's do a different section. Just can you try this? What? So you know what that is, but what's this called here? Yeah, a cadence. So these pieces also don't go from the beginning to the end without certain sections being ended. And when you have a cadence like this, it's important that you acknowledge its presence a little bit more than you did. So identify in every piece clearly, you know, the voice coming in another voice, this develops, now the phrase ends, and then a new one starts. The more clear you can make that, the more it's going to feel natural. So, and then a new thing starts here with only two voices, right? It's actually a complete register change and a voice change. Can we try that from here? Yeah, good. So that one was too early for me. Yeah, and this is happening, you go up to the high note, and a lot more notes here, and intricate articulation work, it needs a little bit more time. Yeah, da 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 This was good though. I am not a huge fan of the these crescendos in the middle, right? 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Try to think 1, 1, so that you have a little bit more of a swing push here. 1. That's it. Yeah, and give yourself. You go to an A, right? You didn't do it either in performance. Yeah. Yeah, good, good, good. And then let this hand lead. Left hand, yes. Yeah, good, keep going. Yeah, good. Right, it's not bad, but again, it's surging in the middle, right? Make sure that you show us where the harmony is changing, which is the exact opposite spot. And then you hear. You have these dissonances happening there. If you surge up to the top there, you essentially get rid of the dissonance, right? The important points are always fully harmonically perfect. And the nice thing about the strong beats is that there's usually notes, sometimes notes carrying over, and you really should show dissonance of those. Can we start with the same idea of pulse, this movement here? Good, excellent. So, just as an exercise, I want to try not justifying the phrasing of it by the equal 16th notes, right? So that you allow yourself to basically never play a bar fully equal. So the equality of the notes is something you throw out with the trash. And we go by the steadiness of the pulse, and within that pulse you can get away with murder if you want. So I want to try that a little bit. Now, you're almost trying to do a one-bar pulse here, right? Going from this one to that one to that one. Maybe you can slightly acknowledge the fact that you're up, and then the fact that you're down halfway, up, down. So give me a little bit more of that. This is the push of the string. Ta-ta-da-dee-da-dee-da-da-da, coming back. Ta-ta-dee-da-dee-da-da-da-da-da. There's something happening right in the middle of the bar. If you can acknowledge where it is, do you know where it is? Exactly. That's right, this guy here, yeah. Can we try that? Yeah, so this happened also in the performance, and now twice again, where you actually playing, right? There's something not quite clean about it. So don't, when you're practicing, try to be fully aware of these little things that are happening, because they're indicative of an underlying problem. In this case, you don't have a solid beginning. Pa-pa-da-dee-da-dee, pa-pa-da-dee-da-dee. Make sure that you fully land on both. Are you switching fingers there? Yeah, it's not that fast, right? Almost nothing in Baroque music is that fast that you have to do finger substitutions. It's almost like you're knocking on a door, right? You're not going to knock on somebody's door, you know, like with two different fingers. It's not fast. You could just stay. This you'll never miss. But 5-4-5, even actually 4-5-4, which is, you know, that's why you miss these notes there. Yeah, good. I don't necessarily mean an accent, right? Just a gorgical awareness of where it is, which is not accented at all. Let's try it again, and I'm going to give you 2 empty bars of pulse, and then you just come in. Imagine you don't even have to cue yourself, there's a conductor there. 1, and 2, and... Yeah, good. Let's try it again. Can you come in at the tempo that I gave you? And what's the length of the upbeat? 16. Yes, that's right. You getting close to an 8, almost. 1, 2, 1, 2. No, too early, right? Yeah, 2, 1, 2. So imagine a child is playing with you and is just doing make that happen right where it's supposed to happen. If you're not aware of the structure of those things, you're always a little bit off and usually a little bit ahead. So you just end up continuously doing that. Just the sense of a swing there is important. If you listen back to yourself playing and you listen to that, you'll hear how much off you are. It's much easier than just believing what I tell you. Good. I also noticed at the end of almost every movement, it's almost like you give up on the last note, or that you become a little impressionistic just before the end. So, and then it feels not quite long enough, and it doesn't quite feel final enough. So in Baroque music, imagine it's more dance-like, that you. At the end of, you have this kind of gesture. You don't want to do, this. Like, I'm so sorry for what I just did to you. Regardless of how the performance went, you are super proud, and ta-da! Here's my last note, right? It doesn't always have to be loud, but something in the gesture should just be, all cards on the table, and then make that gesture final enough for yourself. Everything depends on the context, clearly, but you can't have and then it stops, right? Almost all your pieces are like, oh, okay, it was over, I guess, right? You have to prepare yourself and your audience for it's coming, here's my last 5 and 1. Stop. And then try to be fully in control of when the sound stops. So it's not just your hands are coming off and whenever, you make sure that they're not fully separate. Sorry, am I asking too much? Okay. As I said, you forget everything we talked about here right after I woke up. Can we try the end here? Wait a minute. So, why are you doubting to start here, for example? Is it reading?
No, I can read this.
No, but I'm asking because some people practice a piece and they read it in the beginning once, right? They get it in their mind, and then they can play the piece from the beginning to the end, right? And they can do that reliably. But if you come in any other point in the piece, it's highly problematic. I'm not saying it is with you, but you should always practice being able to start on any logical piece in any logical moment in the piece.
No, because this phrase can end.
Yeah, I know, but still, you should be able to start here.
Sure.
Yeah, practice that also. The stopping at different places. Good. So here, right here, you need a little time because you're picking up your left hand to play 16th notes together. It's like 2 people singing, and this guy's doing 16ths, that guy's doing 8ths, and then at some point they join in together. There will be a little bit of something like, okay, here we are together, I'm joining you. An awareness of 2 voices coming together, and you need that here. Don't think too much digitally, like finger. Yeah, make sure that it's final enough at the last chord. Just one more time. Yeah, same place. Close. We're getting there. Record yourself and actually listen to like Gustav Leonhardt or somebody like that on harpsichord, how they end a piece. They do it with timing and with rolling chords because they can't play louder, And the way they end phrases, if they're good, can help you, look at options of how to end something that it feels final for you and for everybody else. Good. I wish we had more time, but very nice work. Next victim. You do a lot of very beautiful things. I love this sonata. If you were to describe Haydn or just this piece, what adjectives would you use, or how would you talk about it without saying it? Character of it, for example?
The first movement and then some more emotional kind of stuff.
Emotional stuff in the first movement?
Yeah.
Okay, and what about the second?
I feel really happy when I play.
Yes, okay, good. I actually think the first movement is more, it's unusual, right? It's a strange way of starting a sonata. He has a lot of his sonatas are sort of standard sonata form. They're, exposition, development, and they are a little easier to remember. This one there are a lot of different entrances, and everything is ornamented in a slightly different way, so this is actually hard to memorize and to find your way around. Perhaps you can also look at the first movement as more joyful, more fun. So we need to have, this kind of thing a lot more often, I think, in the movement. I would try to think of the most extreme. He's constantly messing with you and with the audience, and I think we should find ways to make that more obvious. So this isn't. It's not the Pathétique sonata, right? Exactly. This is sort of feigned pomposity, right? He's pretending to be a little bit like that. He's putting on an air, like an opera character. And then the two next bar, there's another kind of opera character. And he keeps playing with it, and I think if you explore that playfulness of it, a lot of it will make more sense musically too, the way he wrote it. Now, I asked you about your audition before, because it's important with Haydn. He writes music very differently from Mozart, for example. There's that symbol that looks like a little dash or like a little upside down caret. We call it a caret. I don't know if that's what you call it here. It's your language. But see this guy here, right? If we have that so on the score it just looks like an upright line. If you have that in Prokofiev, it means, with accents and markedly. In a Haydn sonata, it means the exact opposite. All these notes are always light and unimportant. And sometimes comically light and comically short. I think it works like this. So I would never, so for example, it is here, right? That's different from? Right? If you use that, he wrote the character, he took time to write that dash, it cost him ink, right? Ink and effort. So let's try to see what happens if we do what he did there. So you can actually control how short it is. And if you make it just right, so this is too short, for example. And why is this too short? Because then it becomes important again, right? So you have to find the right line between short but unimportant. And it's all about the silence after. So almost this entire first movement happens in how you enter and exit silences and how you get into that. If you don't respect the silences, then it starts to sound a little bit too free and too rhapsodic, like there's just, you're just sort of doing this. It can't really sound like somebody on ecstasy or on LSD who's just, freedom is great and fantasy is great, but some structure, but with always varying ways of working with the rest. Let's try it one more time. Very open. Yeah, good. Let's explore with making the G shorter in a cute way. Like, let's slightly draw attention to it. That's right. And then there are two ways to do it. Right? If you keep moving, it's very different from. Right? People are watching. Even if they don't want to, they're watching. And half your message is your physical. I'm not saying you have to give a show, but you don't contradict with your body the message that you're trying to convey. Tira, tira. Good. And then at the very opening, ta-di-da. So essentially, it's quite simple. You're completely, a little bit similar with the Bach idea, all these quarter notes are exactly the same. So you do a very good job at perfectly measuring them out. What can happen is that it starts to sound a little bit stale, like nothing's happening, right? And then we start to play a little bit more romantically to do something with it. As opposed to trying that, let's imagine, I will completely demolish this, of course, but let's think of some word or some text that you could put on this, that maybe something halfway cute. Fine. Johnny, good morning, right? You say hello to your friend Johnny. Johnny, good morning, right? You would not, Johnny and good morning are all not the same length, right? It's a bad, I'll give you a very bad example. If I had known, I would have thought about it on the car right here. But there is something better you could think about in terms of text that makes it happen. And then if you, as opposed to thinking the pulse or thinking the notes, just think the text, like you're speaking it. Can we try that one more time? Yeah, and you must go from here to here. I agree, so you have to move. Wait longer though. Good morning. And then right at the end, you go and you do your other thing. But make sure that it seems a little bit more like a question. Like you were confident. Johnny, good morning. You know, make it a little cuter. I want humor in this as much as possible. Yeah, good. And you immediately introduce a lot of freedom here, and then it doesn't help you there. As opposed to taking time here, take it here maybe. Right? It's always different. It's not the same as last time. Yeah, so what you did here, it's written crescendo, right? Until the end, you do this. If you back up this much, then the next piano, you can barely play softer, right? And you dig your own grave by doing the diminuendo before. Then you don't need any time also. So the structure is a little bit more clear, and Haydn is fantastic at this. You don't have to edit the score at all. If you just do what's there with a little bit of imagination, it works beautifully. So no dim there. Yeah, this one's connected to that guy. Good, keep going. Yeah, good. And then always be aware of what's the time signature?
What?
3. Good, excellent. So you always want to be aware of where your 1 is. You're playing the way you play it, this A sounds to me like you're giving a downbeat. Try to get there on your 3rd. Right? Still, I wrote in here, stay loud. So don't give it away yet, or you ruin the surprise. Good. One more time. Yeah, good. You slightly still stop. Right, I'm exaggerating, but you had like 3 times where you stop. Try to just go through this phrase. Right? People should be smiling the whole way through because of how you place things. And if you do it like this, the whole opening makes much more sense. You play it once, You play it the second time with an echo, you develop, and then you have 3 ridiculously short and cute chords at the end, and that's it. Good. I think that works a little bit better for that. Can we keep going for a second? Good. Now, what did he write? What am I going to say?
No, Menuet.
Thank you. Yes. So phrasing is one thing, but your general idea of dynamic should still remain the same. Now, it of course creates a problem, because if you stay forte on everything, you get which isn't good. You don't want that at all. You do want to phrase. So the problem already starts at your first note. You're just playing that note when you start to phrase. And I don't want you to think about this note at all. I want you to think about the whole phrase. Like a singer who's going to sing. You could argue, for example, that maybe this is where you're going. If you're too worried about how loud your beginning is going to be, right? So try to think of this whole thing as one idea, so that the attack of this note is not an attack. It's a gesture. It doesn't really matter how loud this one is. The gesture is one of forte. Go. Good. Where did you go? Where was your highlight of the phrase this time? And if you didn't do that, where would my ear have thought it was? Yes. Yeah. That's, if you make that much of a point, it's hard to. Then you have to do the impossible to get the A flat there. So let the C pass a little more. Go here. Yeah? Careful also. For this, you're also doing 2 gestures again. 1, 2. As opposed to? Right? It's much more organic if that's just one idea. And not separate. This is an answer to this guy. Yeah? No pedal? And what do you see here? Zikeret, my friend. Zikeret. So this one, cute C short again, unlike this guy. Makes more sense, right? He writes it here because that's the contrast with that one. Good. Now here, I'm being super strict, I know. Dee ta da 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 dee ta ta. This is one that needs text-like thinking. Ta dee da 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 dee tam tam. More flexibility. You can play this any way you want, as long as generally you're in the same pulse. Don't think too much quarter note here. Good. Now allow more. Let me play with you. One more time. Yeah. So I will move this forward, this forte. I will be too fast for it. But it will work because I will take time before the piano. And so my overall pulse doesn't change at all. I just go a little faster, I wait, and then I play another thing. The big gesture of it all doesn't change. That's because my horizon or my pulse is on the bar rather than on the individual note. I'll do it again. Are you cheating with this one? Yeah. There's one more. Don't do anything with this, same thing. And then a little more cute that way. Good. Can I hear this one again? So move more here and then time for that guy. Yeah, good. So even without listening, if I had full head earbuds in, and I was videotaping you, you could see ta da 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 dee da dee da. So you have 6 times your arm is going up and down for this one gesture. Ideally, it's just one wrist movement. Ta da 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 dee da dee da. And if your body does this, if you train your body to follow that idea, the sound is very different, and your phrasing will be too. Can we try it one more time? So try to do one big circle with your wrist for the whole thing. Good. And now, can you speak it? Not even sing it. Just speak the rhythm. Good. Excellent. Now, can we try? So slightly, I didn't say it out loud, but you're going a little faster towards this note. All right. Try speeding up a little bit there, just for the phrasing. Yeah, but yeah, I like that, but then it's hard to make the short note special if you wait that long. I would make the rest more important than anything. That's right. No, I want to hear that. No. Again. Yeah. Try to be fully on the key, so not like you're doing. If you're lucky, you could. Yes, do practice like this. Yeah. See what happens. Can I hear it? No, literally. Yeah. But nice. Yeah. Nope. That's right. Good. One more time. Yeah, like that. Yeah. Good. Now can you play it and try to sound like that? Yeah, so it's very difficult. Yeah, this has to do with when you play a roll like that, it has to sound like this. This is the ideal C major scale, right? You have to control the release of the note. So rather than thinking, you have to think of up, the previous note coming up rather than the next one going down. It's like the yin-yang of the 2 phases, you know. Are you looking at when the next finger's coming down, or are you thinking of when the previous one's going up? And you will have a lot more control, not just in this, but any piano playing. If you can, so let's say your second finger is down, as opposed to thinking the right one has to come down, you just think left has to come up. And as a consequence, right goes down. And then the 3, 4, yeah. So you think, you can practice it like this. Right, so that, but evenly though. Relax. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's surprisingly hard to practice this. But this kind of stuff helps with the perfect evenness of this run. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. If you want an even run, you don't focus on getting the attacks even, but the releases even. Because that's what gets you speed and makes it sound clean like that. Good. All right. What's another? How much time do we have left? How much?
About 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's a good spot. Oh, yeah. That's the same thing. Okay, this goes for the whole thing. Let's do a little bit of this here. Good. How would you change this, or what would you improve if you were playing for yourself? You're doing this masterclass.
What would you suggest?
So, excellent. I'm hearing rather than, yeah, exactly. So I want a bigger pulse. I want your inner metronome, your inner pulse to be at the bar, if you can. Once you're very good at that, you can even try to have a down bar and an up bar, and a down bar and an up bar. Basically, I mentioned the swing before. It might be even, you can also think about breathing, like breathing in and out, right? So that you don't actually have two pulses, but you have a movement going this way and a movement coming back, and a movement going this way and coming back. It has to be the idea of in and out, or down and up, right? Right now I'm getting down, down, dee-da, 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 which is why these guys, for example, are accented always here. So, and these guys don't sound like upbeats. I'm hearing pum pum paga diga 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 di versus 1, 2. Yaga diga 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 di. If you think about it like that, it allows for a little bit more flexibility, right? So your 8th notes, in a sense, don't have to be perfectly even, which they are right now. Generally wants to go faster like that. It sort of falls over itself because there's just no structure in it. It just keeps rolling forward. If you can think, then you can play. They're not actually even at all. If I were to just test that and you listen to it, you'd say your metronome's a little bit drunk, right? So, and it's not because my big metronome, the guy behind me, who's just doing click and then another one, click. This one's perfect, right? I'm listening to a different drummer. And if you listen to the slow drummer, you have much more freedom. And the weird thing is that if you're listening to this imaginary slow drummer and you're doing all kinds of freedoms, nobody will take offense to it, right? Because it works. It's like text. I'm speaking way too much. Let's try to just open one more time. Yeah, excellent. And what's the most dissonant moment in the first phrase here? Yeah, but you were playing? Make sure that actually those are the ones I'm hearing. You're doing pum pum, pum pum, yaga yaga. Yeah. Yeah, it's mostly about making sure that that's a point for you. Pum pum, yaga yaga, pum pum, yaga 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 yaga. Good. If a good composer like Haydn, if you put the strong bar and the weak bar in it, you can keep the same structure for the whole piece and it works. You never have to adjust your metronome anywhere. It's really well constructed. Okay, excellent. I wish we had more time. Very nice. Thank you very much. Have you done some research on this piece? Like the history around it, or?
Yeah, War Sonata.
War Sonata, yeah. Exactly. Good. So you need a lot of this sort of tragic elements in it. Are you familiar with the 6th and the 8th sonatas, the one before and one after?
I've heard them, yeah.
So it's very dramatic music, right? It's very in your face. Some of it is aggressive, and then there's lyrical sections. I think we can look for ways to differentiate a little bit more the clearly lyrical stuff from the more aggressive ways. And then also, it's a tricky piece, right? This is difficult technically. A lot of the faster passages when you play parallel notes, it sounds a little bit like so ideally it sounds frenetic and it can look energetic, but if you're smart, you don't make it hard on yourself, so that actually those passages are not that difficult. I feel like you're doing some movements, you're jumping up a little bit too high from the keys, and there are some places where you're putting too much effort into playing everything loud. And you could just play some notes loud, and then the rest just easy, and you might have a very similar acoustic effect without spending so much energy, which usually then leads to the tempo dragging down just by a couple hairs, right? But it does create the impression that it's laying back a little bit. So there's a few spots where I want you to try to hold that forward, and then in the slower sections, the more pedaled sections, I think we can explore a little bit more balance of hands, and also having more rich pedals. This applies to this kind of music because this is not Rachmaninoff clearly, but there are moments when Prokofiev is as dramatic as Rachmaninoff, just with wrong notes in it here and there. So we want to get a similar sense of the rich sound of the piano in there, which is going to contrast more with the opening section here. Okay, can we start opening one more time? Yeah, good. So non-legato, right? You wrote this in. This comes from another score, or is this to remind yourself?
It's just for me.
Yeah. So the marking is Allegro inquieto, so like uneasy, unrested. What's a good English word for that? Worried. Yeah. Almost frenzied, but under the voice. I like that you're detached. Try to do the detached part without hopping up so much from the piano, so that you're a little bit more, you have contact with the key at all times. You just don't play legato. Yeah? Something in between? Yeah? Try one more time? Yeah? Try to have a little bit more energy in your fingertips when you play. Yeah? Yes, good. And now, yeah, don't kill anybody with it, but make sure that it's the accent's clear. Imagine a big famous conductor conducting this piece. For all the craziness that's happening here, there wouldn't be that much give and take in terms of the pulse. Things would, happen with a certain exactness to it. For example, the timing of this was not quite right to me. If you're not careful in a piece like that sounds a little bit frenetic, with being careful where everything goes, it starts to sound a little bit too rhapsodic, I think. And this piece can benefit from being motoric and quite exact in that sense. Try it one more time. Yeah, you need more bite just in your fingertips. Yeah. So we don't want because it ends up sounding like fluffy. Like Bugs Bunny goes to the forest or something. You have to make sure that it's inquieto enough, right? To try it one more time. It's close to the key. Just as an exercise. Yeah. Try it with lower risk. Yeah. Yeah. If you, I don't know if you, I think this Ardrich recording of this, it must be on YouTube. I've seen her play it live too. She's very good at this kind of, technique of playing like that, but her wrist is quite low. She doesn't do this, right? This is much harder to control. Yeah, try it one more time. Keep going. Good. Now, keep the energy. I'm hearing That's right. That's right. Good. Opening one time. Yeah, this is good. And then yes. Good. Build it up slower. So don't get loud so fast. And these accents also, this is where you're going. And even this point is not that shouldn't be the loudest in the piece, right? You have, I'm sure there's triple fortes. And even if there aren't, there are other fortissimals later on, I think they should be more of a point. Yeah. So if the louder you get here, the harder it is to make this stand out. So this is sort of a lot of the stuff that's happening in the sonata is under the surface, right? It's sort of boiling. And the longer you can keep it boiling, the more effective the eruption here will be. Good. I like that better. Every time, it's a good way of putting it. It's like an orchestra instrument is holding that B flat. Other things are happening. But you can't lose that finger has to keep pointing at the audience, right? If I feel like you're losing track of that, the finger disappears, something else happens, and you just continue it. Can we keep that laser focus a little bit more on that line every time it happens, that sort of unison element?
From the top.
Yeah. Too light. Energy. So, yeah, I'm hearing a lot more. It's easier there. Try it one more. Almost. We're getting closer. Right there. Good. And now don't give pedal on the B itself. Yeah. Can we try it without any? Just see what happens. Same arrival. These two, same. If not, like this one more than that one. So that you keep building to this guy. So try one more time. Build even slower. So in the beginning, it's just thinking about the crescendo, and then doing a little bit more, and at the end, a lot. Right? The more difference you can make here, the more effective this becomes. Not too light. Yeah. So soft, but not relaxed. One time. Don't be. Yeah, exactly. Ollie, keep going forward. I don't want to hear thirds there. I literally just want to hear. It should sound like that. Good. Right from there. Yep. Short. Energy. And these notes, bass notes, on most pianos, but especially on grand pianos like this, bass notes resonate a lot more. So I know they're short, but you can't give them any length whatsoever. And you're going to have to fight with your right hand to get some balance, so we don't just hear. Right? It can be. Try to get some pitch in there and shortness of it. The top. Yeah, good. And so I like the gesture, but this. Yeah, exactly. You. That's right. Even as if you're trying to stop the key when it comes up, rather than. Yeah, exactly. Good. Right on it? Good. All short, and on the last one you pedal. Ta 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 ya pa pa pum. Ta 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 ya pa 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 pum is more efficient. Yeah. Do this one again. Stay closer also with the right hand notes. So no hopping. Yeah. Yeah. Good. This is a spot where you need I think you need a hair to clear the air. Yeah, pa 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 pa. That's right. Both hands. Yeah, you're not doing. Are you pedal on that one? I don't have.
Just to give me more time, I guess, to.
Yeah, the thing is though, you don't need. The pedal lets the note ring longer, right? And the whole point is that you actually want the resonance of the piano to disappear. You want this to still be loud and in character, and then you want the piano to be as quiet as possible so they can hear you play this. So putting the pedal is actually going against what you need there, because you just make the piano sound longer. Therefore, you need to wait longer to clear. Try it with. This isn't from an edition, is it? Yeah. Try the opposite. Just no pedal whatsoever and see what happens. Yeah, and now wait more. That's right. And then as exact as possible. Everything is minute and precise. Nothing is sort of wishy-washy. Good. This is better. Your octaves in the left hand, then they become clean. Whatever the notes are. Make sure that they're really same articulation throughout, and even crescendo, like intensifying as you go. Right there? Think of left hand. Excellent. And now help yourself. So you play your last note, and then you're ready. You go up again and back down. Just don't go up again. Right on the key. More. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, same thing here. I wouldn't, if you use pedal, then this whole thing, then this whole thing becomes too muddy. I want to hit the da-dum. That's right. Yeah, the whole idea is pom pom pom, and there's one instrument ya-da-da, like who is playing a different piece, so didn't get the memo that you have to play staccato. The pedal doesn't help with that. Honestly, I think I would play this entire section you've done until here without even touching the pedal. Just because you can easily do it like that. Good. Let's try, actually, right there. Yeah, try. I know it's really difficult to play four notes. Pop, 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 pop. Yeah, avoid playing, yeah, pop, pop, pop. That's right. Pop, 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 pop. And, yeah, put that character in the left hand. That's right. No, you're playing, and I want, yeah, that's all I need to hear come out of that. The rest is super soft. Yeah. And what about, rather than, yeah, but more active. Don't jump off. Yeah, otherwise it becomes a little bit lazy rhythmically. Let's try right. Yeah. Yeah, good. And try to keep in the left hand. I'm here. Yeah. Good. It's mostly about the five not being long and not loud. So don't think staccato. Just not the. Just as it. Yeah, more thumb. Yeah, that's fine. Yes. try to not think. Sorry, should not, but you're doing yeah, ba 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 bum. Yeah, yep, yeah. It's you don't even need that much. It's only forte and their accent, their staccato, right? Yep, ba 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 ba. Disappear. Good. Same thing, but give me left hand. Thumb. That's right. Better. Good. Keep going. Dear. Try to have your B flat sound as you're doing the roll. It's definitely. Yeah. And no, I wouldn't also do pedal here. It sounds so nice if it's clean and this thing keeps going. Pop, 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 pop. That's right. Good. And anytime something like this happens where the right hand has tricky stuff, you do what the right hand has to do, but don't let that be your first thing on your mind. Make sure that you give it pop, 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 pop. Let that be the primary thing. You'll feel more comfortable and it'll also prevent it from running. Anyway, one more time. Pushing you here so that you keep listening ahead with your octaves. So there's no moment where it relaxes. Bum, 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 bum. Keep the energy going all the way through. There should be something until you reach the middle section here. There should be something relentless about it. Just don't let go of that energy. Yeah, from every time you do it, it tends to, also in your mind, it becomes harder to control it. That's why you stop the phrase also a little bit. Can you try to stay? Have you practiced ever? I do it, but it's very dangerous with my cell phone here. It's better with a cheap cell phone. I just use something else, but let me do it here. So it does two things, right? You cannot see your notes, which is one, so you have to stay close to the keys, and you also can't jump up because pain will ensue quickly. Let's try it right here. Good. Okay, now get your right hand, right foot off the pedal completely. Yeah, let's try again. Time. Yeah, one is another option. Anything you want except for da 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 ti ti. Make sure that yeah. So don't stare yourself blind on the staccato-ness of this. Yeah, pa pa pa. If you think them too short, you will be late, because then the shortness will make you want to lift your hand up in between, right? So you were looking for as much efficiency as possible. One more time. Good. One more time. You can look now, and I want that secco feeling the whole way through. Mezzo forte again, drop. And these guys don't really develop, right? It's mostly this guy that comes up. So less energy on the right hand and try to shape up your left hand so you really arrive there. Good. Getting better. Halfway through, I'm starting to get a little bit. Versus. And it coincides with you going higher. Right? And it's sort of, I know it's louder, but it also sounds not quite as articulate as when you stay close to the key. So in your mind, when you play this piece, you're on the key. Ferocious, but on the key, you don't leave it. Right? Really, really clear and exact. Try it one time. Good. Da-dun, bum, bum, bum. That's right. That's right. Good. Now we're getting somewhere. Good. Let's try that. Okay, yeah, just getting into this whole section. Yeah, I heard it last time too. Yeah, it's not really written like that, right? It's not. Yeah, don't make it too Gershwin-y. This is still a romantic melody going into A flat here, right? One more time. This is right, yeah. Yeah, did you see? Did you spot it? Right, careful for every time you do an individual gesture, it breaks the idea that you're going there. So these are not random chords. You're basically playing. He doesn't do it so quite forwardly, but there is just a sense of modulating to A flat. Make sure that that's the main thing on your mind there. One long suspended harmony there. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And then this is personal, of course. It's only piano. It's not pianissimo, and it's espresso and espressivo. Sorry, and dolente, which means painful. That's right. Painful mostly in your expression, right? Can we give a little bit more expressiveness to the sound? I feel like you're trying a lot to be careful in the sound. Don't think about the piano marking. Just think about this happening. One more time. Can you get that?
I don't think I can reach it.
Okay.
That chord.
Okay, then you have no. Yeah, ideally you have a clean thing. But if you can't hold this, then your A flat will have to be slightly softer.
Let me try.
But that takes too much time. That's not worth it. Try it again and try playing your A flat less, so that if the pedal is dirty, it's not super dirty. Yeah. Well, try it one more time. Yeah, you can get quicker to the C though. Yeah. That's right. And then I would play 4 or 3 on this one. I wouldn't go back to a 5. 3. No, 5, 4, 3. That's right. That's right. So even if you have to cheat with it, don't try to hide how you do it. Yeah, exactly. Good. So as I said, you go into A flat clearly. Where are we? What did I do? Yeah. Okay. This is an unexpected bass, right? You want. So he's not quite there yet, but then he does arrive. Make sure I heard a little bit. I wouldn't hide it that much so that the main harmony here, where you've arrived, is a little bit more clear. Try it. Not too thin in sound. That's right. Yeah, good. So you notice the pedal is a little messy, right? It's mostly messy because of a loud A flat before. If just the A flat, actually not even the F and the D. If the A flat is a little less, then it'll sound cleaner there. Good, keep going. Yeah, and what do you think is most important? Or
Both. I mean, this is the motif, but
yeah, I like it, not at the expense of this one though. Try to give me both, and then a clean arrival on the A flat. Yeah. I think you're playing, and you're putting pedal on that. Can we try? Almost overlapping with your hands a little bit. Yeah, good. Now, when you play octaves, you cannot legato both voices, right? You can only do one of them. It's very important that when you do legato one of them, that's the one you bring out. If you bring out the other one, right, I fully legato, but I can't hear it because I brought out the thumbs. So bring out a little bit more of the bottom voice and then connect that. That's right. Yeah, good. And if you do connect with your hands, then you don't rely on the pedal for connection. You just rely on the pedal for resonance of the piano, which is much more important. I'll come back to Argreave. There's a passage of her doing the Tchaikovsky concerto octaves, that last movement, and you can see even at super fast speeds where you can't even see what's happening, and then they show a slowdown, and she's doing 5, substitute 4, substitute 5, weird things to connect notes physically, and the reason is that you feel just more confident on the piano. Everything's connected, and your pedal is just there for resonance. So we have to try to decouple pedal from the legato of the phrase in a way. Good, I'm going off topic, I know. Are there any spots that you have questions about?
Probably the most technically difficult is this scale development.
Show me a few ones before. Good. Yeah, so in the long run like that, first of all, stay closer to the keys. So between your different hand positions, don't try to go up. Yeah, when you go up, you talk about this guy here, right? Yeah. That's one, so that you don't see this. If you're not sure, videotape yourself on slow motion and look, where do I go up and how much? Ideally, the movement, even though you have, let's say, 4 different hand positions, ideally, your body feels like it's one movement. That's one. And then, when possible, reconnect. But in a place like this, sometimes we can't. So you have to just literally move your hand to the next position. The key is to soft land on the next hand position. So if we go from here, we go to the next one, make sure that this is a soft land. So hide the first note of every one of those things, and that acoustically will sound a lot better. Try it right on it. One more time. Right on it is good, no pedal. Yeah, left hand alone. Yeah, good. Now you might be aware as you're playing this that you're tightening up. I don't know if you feel it. And you're back here, and you're tightening up a little bit your left hand shoulder. So anytime your hand has to go up, look for a body position that helps you get there. So you may have to lean back a little bit more, or you have to lean a little bit more. Make sure that your left hand can do this movement without playing notes, without feeling constricted. If you sit too much like that, then you're blocked up. And once this is blocked, and this is blocked, and then your fingers don't actually play the notes. Can I see it one more time? Yeah. Can you fake your right? So don't play the notes, but don't make a noise with the right hand. Ghost them.
Oh, okay. That's kind of hard.
Yeah, I know. One more time. switch to the left hand. Left hand alone, one more time.
With the ghost.
No. Yeah, can we do this in tempo? That's right. Okay, good, better. Can we do that both hands together? Keep this pulse here. Yeah, from here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Good. Now, another thing, when you have a cambrio passage like that, it has to go fast. Volume is always, meaning decibels, is always the enemy of speed. So think of this whole run as pianissimo. Yum, bum, and just the arrival. And you put a pedal on that, and it's going to sound beautiful. You know, you have the effect of speed, but the faster you go, the less loud you want to go. So let's do this again and try it pianissimo. Yeah. What? Yeah. Why are you stopping here that much? You don't forget. Yeah. You do yum. Yeah. Good. Don't speed up here. Try to not lose time here. Yeah. So one hand at a time. Your left hand sometimes good. Your right hand sometimes good. I would keep focusing on them separately first until you have the big pulse. Another thing. I'm not going to make you do it in public now, but when you have hard things going on like that with both hands and you're trying to figure out how everything works, practice it slowly, counting out the pulse. So you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, G. If you can count that while you're doing it, then you're golden. So that you're not, what's a good way of putting it? It's like you're telling the horses where to go. You're not riding them, and going all crazy. It creates a little bit of distance for what the pulse happens. Actually, the same thing goes for places like this. Let's try it right here on this one, which is a little easier. So think 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Not only think it, speak it.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Good. Okay. So you realize that even when you start here, it's very classically written. I mean, the structure is 4, 4, 4. I would practice this where the speaking is more important than the playing. So I want to hear more voice and well spoken. So try to get the frantic out of the speech. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It decouples your hands from having to do everything. Your brain is controlling what's happening, and your fingers try to fit everything in. It's a really good exercise. Good. All right. Are we running? We are running out of time. Thank you very much. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Sure. All right. Not everybody at the same time. Any general questions or concerns? Difficult room. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. We had a piano at home. I guess I played around. In Belgium, there's the academy is free, so studying piano is available for everybody, and it usually starts at I think 8 or 9 or something like that, which is quite late actually for if you want to be professional. I'm still catching up slowly, but yes, I think I might have played on my piano before, but lessons were 8 or 9 years old, something like that. And I won't tell you how old I am, but it's been many decades.
Okay, and also, how do you pronounce it?
Oh, Vanhauwaert or Vanhauwaert. Yeah, it's been usually when I go on stage and the presenter has to announce me, it's and here is Stephen, and then silence. Yeah. Vanhauwaert. Yeah. Vanhauwaert. Yeah. It was a pleasure to hear you guys play. Very, very, very good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
thank you. Oh yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's take a picture of everybody if you feel so inclined. Maybe by the piano. We could just have the whole group come up if you want.